Up at the disinterested sky, blue and big, the sky under which she had lived a life, a good life. Tears dampened her face, and her stomach cramped in piercing spasms. "Down!" he growled, shoving his knee against the back of hers. "Get down!" She fell hard against the concrete, smashing into it with her elbow, and he yanked her by the hair, kicking at her hips, repositioning her body so she was collapsed across her twisted knees, and her arms, bound at the wrists, were wrenched back behind her. She heard him slide the knife from his belt as he grabbed her around the neck, pulling her towards him and letting out a foul guttural shriek that shattered the city's masquerade of peace. Her body went rigid. A scream rose in her chest. Her bowels opened. The vomit gathered in her throat. No. Please, no. Chapter 2. Nat lay waiting, held by dawn's half-light and a gut superstition that the first thought of the day foretold the rest of it. Slowly, a soft glow formed behind his still-closed eyes, and the sun-dappled ocean rolled in, a fine surf forming, and he felt the reprieve of the G-rated verdict. No violence, no death. Today was curse-free. It could be a good one. He rolled over to spoon Jen, running his hand down the familiar softness of her body. She stirred slightly, and he tenderly kissed the bareness of her back. "Don't wake up, babe. It's too early." And she curled obediently away from him as he tucked the soft sheet up around her and eased himself out of his side of the bed, the side near the door. Always the side near the door. Today would be a good one. He had it off, a lull between contracts, so he'd try to make sure of it and bolster the odds a bit by dipping into the tricks his old psychologist had once given him. Straightforward in theory, frustratingly difficult in practice. He crept out of the apartment, closing the door quietly behind him, remembering halfway down the stairs his sunnies were a no-no. Something about unfiltered morning sunlight triggering serotonin, the happiness hormone. And he opened the mailbox in the foyer and surrendered them to it, at once denuded without his signature bit of kit. He began to run, checking his watch, picking up the pace as his body roused for 10 steady clicks in an easy 43 minutes. Music pumped through his AirPods, and he glided over the footpaths down to the beach, crossing onto the pathway that curved along the front. Some days he felt he could run forever, an eastern suburbs Forrest Gump, not sure what he was running to or from, circling in a secure zone of physical exertion. The army had taught him many things, among the less nefarious, to honour the god of fitness. He could tell there was going to be a real heat to the morning, and already he was working up the beatings of a sweat. He paused at the top of the headland, overlooking the ocean pool, where a lone early morning swimmer was poised on the edge, arms raised gracefully in an impending dive. "Okay," he thought, bending over his knees and catching his breath. "Textbook it. Be present," the long-abandoned psychologist had said. "Name 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, 1 you can taste." He tried it now, raising his head and fixing a contemplative gaze upon the diver as she broke the pool's still waters and then out past her to the crashing waves beyond, watching them swell and tumble, focusing on a single patch of ultramarine and trying to follow it to shore as it rolled through a dozen shades of turquoise, finally foaming into a cloud of white. He easily named things he could see, and straight away, as always, tripped at ones he could touch. Grass, shorts. Yeah. What else? Bugger it, then. As for sounds, smells, and taste, they wouldn't come at all. His anxious mind impatiently twitching and digressing. This thing never worked. Back then he would have been able to name a dozen things for every sense. The shit he'd touched, the shit he'd heard. He turned for home and the sanctuary of his sleeping wife. An hour later, and he was jerking off in the shower, rhythmically banging his head against the wall, turning the water as hot as...